introduction to computer. Today we are going to discuss various topics. Just stay tuned to be with us. These are the content of this week. We have explain element of computer system, describe computer hardware and its components, describe three major components of computer hardware, which are the input, processing, and the output. Describe the functions of the peripheral devices and other part of it. The element of computer system. Let's look at when you say a system. Basically, a system is it comprises of interrelated elements working together to achieve a goal. That's the meaning of a system. So when you say computer system, this consists of several interrelated elements or components or devices coming together to make a computer. In a system, for instance, when you look at human system, we have several subsystems, like the digestive subsystem, respiratory, of which they also have their organs. So as it applies in computer is a system entirely, and it have subsystems under it. So we are going to look at some subsystems that are in computer. One of the subsystems, we have the hardware subsystem. The hardware subsystem is a physical and tangible aspect of a computer where the user can see and touch. That refers to the hardware aspect of computer. An example of these hardware components in a computer is the CPU chip, we have the memory, we have the storage devices, and we have the other peripheral devices. We are going to look at memory, and we are going to look at also storage devices, the differences. In our previous lectures, we have looked at the temporary memory and the permanent memory. In this place, when we talk about memory, basically we are looking at the temporary memory, which example of it is the random access memory. And when you talk about the storage device, basically we are looking at the permanent storage devices. For example, the hard disk drive, the SSD, the flash disks, and so forth. This refers to the storage devices. All these are physical part of a computer that the user can touch and can see. Then let's look at the software subsystem. The software is a set of programs or instructions that operates the computer hardware, or that give instructions for the computer to operate. These softwares are of different types. Have the application software, have the system software, and the utility software. Subsequently, there will be a topic that will discuss about computer software. Then we look at data. Data is said to be as a raw fact. Data is raw fact, something that doesn't have a complete meaning. So that is data. Then we look at the users. This refers to the individuals or systems that interact with the computer to perform tasks. In some cases, you find users can be the individuals. In other cases, you can find computers are also the users. Because, for example, we look at automated cars. These cars are being controlled by systems. So the system can be the user as well. Then we look at the network. The network refers to the connection between one computer to another computer for the purpose of sharing information or sharing ideas. That refers to as the network. So now we are going to look at the computer hardware components. The components that consist, or the component that made up the computer hardware. The computer hardware includes the input devices, the output devices, the processing unit, the storage unit, and the motherboard, the power supply units. Let's take them one after the other. Input devices, we look at the input devices and we say these are devices that help the user to input data into the computer. Example of these input devices, we have the keyboard, we have the mouse, we have the scanner, we have the microphone, we have the scanners, and so forth. These are all input devices because they help the user to input data or instructions into the computer. Then we as well look at the processing devices. The processing devices, we look at the CPU in general, which we say the CPU serves as the brain of the computer, and it's further subdivided into two. We have the ALU and the CU, which is the control unit. Then we look at the storage device, where we look at the RAM, SSD, we look at the hard disks, and so forth. And then the output devices, which are the devices that help to generate or to give a user a results of what he has processed. These are nothing like the monitors, printers, speakers, and so forth. Then the motherboard is said to be the mother because it comprises of all the circuitries or the components of the computer that are built on top of that board. That is why it's called the motherboard. It's a central circuit board that connects all the components of the computer or the circuitries aspect of the computer. On this motherboard, we have different components that can be found on it, and we have different chips. Have like the south and the north bridge, have the memory slots, the expansion card slots, we have the BIOS chips, we have the ICs, we have transistors, all are embedded within the motherboard. Then we also have a power supply unit. It's also a hardware component of the computer. This power supply unit also refers to PSU. It provides electrical power to the computer, where in our definition of in our previous classes, we have said computer must be electronic in nature before it becomes a computer. So the power supply unit provides power, electric power, to the computer. There are three major components of computer hardware, which is the input, processing, and output. We have looked at them previously. So let's look at computer peripheral devices. When you talk about peripheral devices, these are external hardware components that expand the computer functionality, or it makes the computer to be more functional. These are components that are attached to the computer. They are not inbuilt components that comes with the computer, but some of them are attached to the computer to expose the more functionality of the computer. Among these peripheral devices, we have the flash disk, we have the joysticks and the rest. We have also the printers can serve as the peripheral devices. So let's look at some functions of these peripheral devices. We have the input, which allows the entry of data into the computer. At the same time, we have output as the processing, where we have the printers. We also have storage. That's why we talk about the flash drives. In terms of communication, we have the network cards, and other devices include the scanners, the webcams, the external GPUs, and etc. This all serves as peripheral devices. As we said, in just summary, these are devices that build or that add more functions to the computer. As we said, personal computers are computers that are used for general purpose. So to have this general, to make it this general in nature, it requires some additional components that will supplement to the computer. These components are known as the peripheral devices. Okay, this marks the end of today's class. Basically, we just look at the computer hardware and its components, and we look at also the computer subsystems and the component that made the subsystems. Then we look at the peripheral devices and examples of the peripheral devices. At the same time, we look at the functions of the peripheral devices. This is the end of today's class. Hope to see you in our fourth week of introduction to computer. Endeavor to please drop your questions, if any, and I'll refer back to them. Thank you very much.